What's going on, everybody? It's Cam Jam here, bringing you another video on the channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about my 5 biggest pretenders and contenders for this year's Super Bowl after about 5 weeks of NFL play. I think everybody knows what this kind of video is about. It's about 5 teams who have very good chance at contending for a Super Bowl, and 5 teams who think they might have a chance at contending for a Super Bowl, but they're really just pretending themselves, and they're kind of trying to pretend everybody else thinking that they have a chance at the Super Bowl. Before I get too deep into the video, I just want to remind you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. If you do that, that helps me out a lot, and it makes me feel better about the content that I bring out to you guys, and it lets me know what you guys want to see. So if you can, just make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If I put your team as a pretender, don't get mad at me. It's just how I feel about your team, and if you think that I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Without further ado, I'm going to start with the pretenders, and then I'm going to go back and forth. So, I'm going to go with number 5 pretender and contender, number 4, number 3, number 2, all the way down to 1. So, with the number 5 pretender, I have the Carolina Panthers. Not too much time I'm going to spend on this one. I think Carolina is a good team with Teddy Bridgewater. They're a good offense and an okay defense, but their defense really struggles against elite teams. They got completely dismantled by Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. So with that being known, their defense doesn't really cause turnovers unless they're playing above average or below average offenses. So with that being in mind, I have Carolina as my number 5 pretender. My number 5 contender, I have the Tennessee Titans. I mean, this really relies on the fact that Derrick Henry has been an unstoppable force on the offensive side of the ball at the running back position. And Ryan Tannehill has been low-key an MVP candidate, or an under-the-radar MVP candidate. He's thrown 9 touchdowns to only 1 interception. He's played very well for a guy who has an elite running back, and a guy who's not really playing as a game manager, but somebody who controls the game in their team's fashion. So at the number 5 contender spot, I have the Tennessee Titans. Next up at the number 4 pretender spot, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas is a good team, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people are seeing the fact that they put up 40 points against the Kansas City Chiefs and won in Kansas City. However, just because they beat Kansas City does not mean that they automatically get a bid as a contender spot. They probably are the 2nd or 3rd best team in their division, and they have 2 bad losses. I won't say that the Buffalo loss is a bad loss. They only lost by 7, but they lost by almost 20 points in New England against a Cam Newton-led Patriots squad. So I don't really see them making any noise. Even in the playoffs, I don't think they would win a game just with the style of offense that they have. Derek Carr is definitely not the type of quarterback to just break open a game like he did against Kansas City. Kansas City just doesn't have a great defense. So putting up 40 points against Kansas City to me almost means nothing, and that's why I have them at the number 4 pretender spot. Coming in at the number 4 spot for my contender list, I actually have the Baker Mayfield-led Cleveland Browns. I mean, Baker has pretty much played at an MVP level so far this season. Their offensive coordinator and head coach Kevin Stefanski has performed out of his mind when he's calling these plays for Baker Mayfield and the offense. They've got 2 great running backs once Nick Chubb comes back between him and Kareem Hunt. They've got 2 incredible wide receivers between Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. They've got a great tight end in Austin Hooper, and their offensive line has played very, very well. They have a great pass rush between Myles Garrett, Larry Ogunjobi. They've added guys like Adrian Claiborne. They've got a lot of guys on the defense as well. The worst part about their team definitely is their below average secondary. But guys like Ronnie Harrison have been playing out of their mind. Denzel Ward is a great corner. And they're kind of getting back to being healthy. Greedy Williams has been on the sideline the whole year. So once they get back to being fully healthy and fully in stride, I think this team could really be vying for a Super Bowl and at the very least be a very good playoff team. At the number 3 pretender spot, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. They had a bad loss to Jacksonville in week 1, and I get that it was week 1, but it's still the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have not won a game since then. So I don't know. They have a bad loss in Jacksonville. They've got a turnover-prone quarterback. They have way too many injuries to be a, contender in this league. Even though the AFC South is a weak division, I just don't see Indy making any noise in the playoffs. At the number 3 contender spot, I have the Green Bay Packers. Literally, this just relies on the fact that Aaron Rodgers is a top 3 quarterback in this league. At his very peak, he is the best quarterback in this league. He can take them deep with the best of them, and he can, win the long game. when Devontae Adams is healthy, when their receiving core is healthy, when their offense is healthy, Aaron Rodgers is the baddest man on the planet at the quarterback position. So with that being said, he is leading the Green Bay Packers to the number 3 contender spot in my eyes. Coming in at the number 2 pretender spot, I have the Chicago Bears. When you look around this team, everything is either between below average to slightly above average. They've got a below average offensive line. They've got average weapons. They've got an average quarterback. They've got an above average secondary, and they've got an above average pass rush. But nothing really screams out to you contender. And I understand that they're 4-1. They just beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady and that offense. But I don't see how a Nick Foles team that only puts up 19... I mean, they put up 11 points against an Indianapolis Colts defense that's not very good. They put up only 20 points against the Tampa Bay defense, who at the corner position is very limited between what they have, between guys like Carlton Davis and those guys. So I don't see how Chicago... I mean, I already made a video about this, about how Nick Foles can't lead them to a Super Bowl. But with everything being said, they are either below average to slightly above average at every single position group. And that can't be a team that wins a Super Bowl, even though a lot of people are talking about them like they can. So with all that being said, they are the number 2 pretender in my eyes. Next up, at the number 2 contender spot, I have the Seattle Seahawks. This is one that you don't really need to say a lot about that isn't Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. I mean, their defense is very bad. They have a very, very bad defense, and I will give you that. But Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf practically cancel that out. Throw in the fact that they have a 1,200-yard rusher with Chris Carson, with another great back behind him in Carlos Hyde, and another solid back behind him with Travis Homer. Then you throw in the fact that they've got Tyler Lockett. They've got Will Dissly and Greg Olsen. They've got a young, not very young, but improving offensive line that as they play together more, they will gel together a little bit better. So by the end of the season, Seattle Seahawks could be a 13-14 win team and be playing in the Super Bowl against the number 1 team I have coming up next. Next up, as the number 1 pretender in my eyes, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I have Lamar Jackson's team. I like Lamar Jackson. I think he's a great quarterback. But the way that they play football just can't win a Super Bowl in today's league. We saw what their kind of team was in the NFC last year with Jimmy Garoppolo's San Francisco 49ers, a team that wants to run the ball every single play. They could run the ball every single play if they wanted and win a regular season game. But when it comes down to it, when all those hits add up on your quarterback and on your running back and on your offensive line, your team breaks down by the end. And with that being said, their team doesn't get tested throughout the year unless they're playing the division. If you look at the quarterbacks that they've gone against guys like Mahomes and Watson. And when we saw them go against Mahomes, they played very bad. They did not play great at all. And when they went against Watson, Houston is a very bad team. I hate saying it as a Houston Texans fan, but the Houston Texans are a very bad defense. They're not a great offense. Then you look at the other 3 teams that they played. They played Baker Mayfield's Browns, who I admittedly put them as a contender. But it was the first game of a Cleveland Browns team who was adding pieces like their head coach and offensive coordinator, Kevin Stefanski, adding pieces like Austin Hooper, adding a right tackle in Jedrick Wills, or I guess actually left tackle in Jedrick Wills. So their best win is against a Cleveland Browns team who was putting all their pieces together without a preseason and real training camp in the first game of the season. And admittedly, they won by 30-plus points. That's great and all. But since then, they've gone against Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson. And the one incredible quarterback that they faced in Patrick Mahomes, they lost the game easily. So with all that being said, that's going to be my reason as to why the Baltimore Ravens are the number 1 pretender in my eyes. And with that being said, they could win a playoff game. But for people in Baltimore or fans of the Ravens in general, if you think that the Ravens are close to winning a Super Bowl or that they should be a favorite to win the Super Bowl, you are very highly mistaken. With the number 1 contender spot, this is one that probably everybody saw coming. It's the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl reigning champions. I know they just lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. What Super Bowl champion doesn't lose in their next season? I mean, and Las Vegas is a very solid team. But even if they lose 3 or 4 games this season, they're probably going to be the AFC contender for the Super Bowl. The only team I could see knocking them off is possibly Cleveland, possibly Tennessee, maybe even Pittsburgh if you think about it. But with Patrick Mahomes, with Tyreek Hill, with Travis Kelce, with Sammy Watkins, that great offensive line, there's going to be, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there's going to be nothing that can really stop this offense. And their defense is improving, it seems like, every week. With guys like Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu, there's a lot of pieces on the defense as well that could make this team have a top 15 defense and the number 1 offense going into a Super Bowl matchup with whoever comes out of the NFC. So with all that being said, they are going to be my number 1 contender in the NFL. Alrighty, that's going to be the video for me. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave a like on the video. If you didn't like it, make sure you leave a dislike. Any feedback from everybody at this point is much appreciated. If you disagree with where I put your team on the pretender list, make sure you let me know why in the comments. Keep it civil. I understand I just dissed your team, but keep it civil. And make sure you make sure you subscribe if you like the content I've been putting out. I try to put out as much as possible for you guys. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.